Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Bad Idea Bros. So today you join me on another basket case build, because I never learn. Now what's behind me is a multitude of parts that when reassembled should theoretically be a Honda Today. We50cc, pretty straightforward motor, nothing too crazy with this one. Now, you guys have seen me build a whole bunch of different things before. This one is definitely one of the more questionable, as nothing is together, as you can see from what's in front of you right now. Now, the frame's there, the frame's mostly complete. Looks like it's all still back together, but I will check everything is tight. Got a huge box of parts here, which theoretically should be everything I need. All the plastics are pretty tired, but they're there. Fuel tank, wiring harness, everything's, it's in one piece, so I'm hopeful. But guys, this one could be interesting. I suppose the best place to start is by trying to get the power plant into the frame, and we'll work up from there. So, a lot of work to do. Let's get into this one. Alright guys, let's start by seeing what's in this box. So obviously got the fuel tank, which still sounds like there's a bit of fuel in there. No lines, hoses, breather hoses gone. Handlebars complete. A little bit rusty, not too bad. Tail light indicator assembly, which excellent, hasn't been cut, so that's good. Hopefully that should just plug straight into the harness. It's still connected to the motor. Headlight bucket speedo with 4,818.9 kilometers. That's probably been around once before. I doubt this is a 4,000k bike. Rear parcel tray. Some more headlight pieces. That's surround rings looking pretty broken. That's not too bad. What do we got? Oh, cool. License plate. 88ZKL. Let's see if that's still in the system. That's rear. No. Front brake, because it's got the speedometer on it. Shoes and everything are still in there. That's what we need. So, get that out. That's the mount. So this part joins the frame to the motor. It's going to need a bit of lube. But basically this will bolt into the frame, and then this part should be the motor. I'm pretty sure that's the way it'll go. So that's important. That's going to go over that side. That'll probably be one of the first parts we need. This doesn't appear to be part of this bike. That's definitely not a part of this bike. That's a front brake reservoir lever and stuff for some reason. That can go over there. Seat release. Hopefully that'll work. Indicators. And basically just a whole bunch of sundry wires and such. Loose bolts everywhere, loose nuts. That's going to be fun to dig through. Alright, so because we've got the mount and the frame is definitely very bare, that mount will go in on these holes. So we can get that on and try and get this whole power plant, motor, drivetrain assembly into the frame. That's definitely going to be the first part to start on. This one's going to be a big job, guys. Hopefully it's just like a big Meccano set that we put together, but cue the time lapse, I suppose. Let's start building this thing. Alright, so that's got that bolted in. As you can see, it's pivots on the 2 points, which gives the frame its ability to move. Looks like it's got to come back quite a way because that suspension mount has to be that guy there. Now we've got a where are we? We've got a captive nut. A captive nut just on this end, so that means there should be a bolt that goes through the suspension and into that thing. So first hunt through the box of bits, trying to find the right size bolt, because there is crap in here everywhere. That's an axle. That's not what we need. That's not even the right suspension for this bike, but that bolt that's in the top might be the one we need. We'll come back to that. And there's some crap in here. Alright guys, I'm going to dig through all of this and find the right bolt, and we'll come back to you. Okay, so suspension mount is now on, and this thing's sitting on its center frame and rear wheel. I do notice the rear wheel is absolutely ruined, dented to buggery. You can see at the top here it's split the bead, so not ideal. Does explain why there are 2 other wheels. Thankfully one is a rear, the other one's a front, so should be good to go. Next I guess we'll go for the wiring harness. We'll get that all in place. There's not too much to these, thankfully. So we've got earth there and coils there, CDI, fuses, relays, the ignition. What else have we got up here? Horn, by the looks of it. Yep, a whole bunch of plugs which will go to the speedo and everything. So don't really know how they're routed on this bike. I can see some cable clips like here. I guess we'll just start feeding it and figure out where everything goes. It should hopefully want to naturally go in where it lives, but that'll be the next little goal, guys, so we'll get into that now and move on from there. Well guys, this one's going to be a bit more difficult than I thought. I figured it'd just be a simple case of bolting it back together, and the wiring harness does sort of go where it wants to go, you know, where you'd imagine it. The key barrel's a good indicator. It's got the 2 mounts here as to where everything goes. The horn seems to want to sit about here, but then we've got you know, all these other little bits and bobs that just don't seem to want to behave. Sure, it makes sense. There's probably a bracket that should be on here. There's a couple of bolt holes and stuff that don't seem to make sense, so that might be the case. Even this thing, the release for the seat, I first thought it went down there because it lines up those bolt holes perfectly, but in looking at the seat, which on the back of it is where the catch is. This is the upper part, that's obviously where the fuel tank sits, so it has to be up here. But then you've got the routing for this guy, which, as you can see, it's all sorts of weird bends and stuff. So it's only going to fit one particular way. But there's going to be a lot more thought involved with this than I originally anticipated. So I might have to, I think the best approach for this now is probably just to throw everything at it, figure out where everything wants to sit, and then go from there. But yeah, this could take a little longer than anticipated, so I don't know, let's dive back in. Alright guys, now any of you that have been following me for a while will know that wiring's not my strong point, and this is no different case, but I think I've been a bit stitched up with this. So there are two of the left hand controls, one which I've got fitted to the bar and one that's here loose, still has a brake lever and the line on it. Just looking at the harness, so down here where we've been working away, we've got like all these extra outputs. This one's broken, but there's all these extra outputs that just don't seem to go anywhere. Now, this is all in relation to that left-hand left-hand switch block. Now, I had a look at the other one, and this has got all sorts of additional bits on it. So they've got this globe here, which looks to be on the lighting circuit, and there was another one there, which is on the indicator circuit. Now, that didn't make a heck of a lot of sense because the wiring for the indicators is all captive on the indicators themselves. But if I go over here to the headlights, get all this rubbish out of the way, the bucket itself has a couple of little lights on it. One of indicator, one for high beam. Now that would make sense as to what these little globes are for, because that would indicate the high beam was on and the indicator. So I think what I'm going to have to do, this harness has to be used. Kind of does make sense actually looking at it now, because it's got a red plug, and although this plugged in nicely, this one has a white plug but a red male end, so there must be two different variants of these things. This switch block is broken, which isn't ideal. This one's not. What I might have to do is take this back off the bike, the one that I've currently got fitted, unplug it, see if I can take this top switch assembly off and replace it, because the bottom is actually alright on this. It's just this top bit that's broken. So I guess that would alleviate the issue and give us the correct harness. So over to the workbench, I guess. Alright, so we've got these both off the bike now. The one on the right of screen is the one that was fitted, that doesn't have, well, seemingly doesn't have enough outputs on this harness. The one with the lever still on it is the broken one. So what I'm hoping is that with a bit of luck, the switches are still the same, and if I pull this side of the block apart on both, I can just swap them out, use the good switch from this one on that, and still have the right wiring harness. Yeah, that's not what you want. Interesting, they are two different part numbers in there, so that could well be what the go is. But yeah, you can see this one's all cracked and split up and broken, and this one's in one piece. So here's hoping that I can get this guy back in and working. Alright guys, so we've got a very questionable setup here at best, but I know that this battery's got voltage. Pulled it out of one of the other bikes. I've just jammed the earth cable in there. And what I'm hoping is that, even though this is a much too small wire to carry the positive, that if I give it a bit of juice, that this thing will, I'm not expecting it to start, but I'm hoping that it'll, you know, just fire over a little bit. If the motor turns over, we know that it's going to be worth carrying on. So I'll set you guys up on the camera and let's hope I don't burn this place down. Well, let's see what happens here. It should be making contact. Do we have... Oh. Well, that is awesome. The motor turns over. Definitely worth carrying on with. Yeah, that's really cool. Now today I want to address all the plastics. They are pretty tired, they're all scratched up, they're pretty beaten and faded. So a quick lick of paint and we should be able to bring those back to life. Might seem silly to take a break on the engine and work on the plastics, but I want to see how this thing's going to look. Pretty confident it's going to run. So guys, that's the goal for today. We're going to crack into it and see how this thing looks by the end. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with. The rear covers are not too bad. They're filthy. Don't know if it'll show up on camera, but they are also all scratched up. The factory stickers are wrecked. It's not even on this particular one. Front guard is all pitted up, which I'm assuming is just road grime, and the front panel has been painted pretty poorly in a very cheap gloss black. So what I'm thinking of doing is all the silver panels, I'm thinking of redoing those in the same grey that I did the CT90 build in. I've got a little bit of that left over, so I feel like that's a good use of it. And all the negative panels, so all the parts that are inside, I'm hoping to do in black. Now that should hopefully work out okay. I've got enough paint left over to do it. So first step is preparation. Alright, now it's going to be the same process for all of the panels, guys, so I'm just going to show you on the first one, but because this has a clear coat over it, the new paint won't stick to it, and we've got, don't know if you can see, but the scratches that we were talking about before, all of those will need to be leveled out. So just going to use reasonably fine sandpaper. I'm not aiming to get this back to bare plastic, I just need to get the gloss off of it and pull these ridges down. So that's going to be very time consuming. I could do this with a sander, but I like to do this by hand. I can get a feel of the panels, a bit old school like that. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so that's got all the clear coat pulled off. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but everything's back down to a very flat base. It's probably a bit hard to see on camera. It does still look like there's some gloss on there, but it's pretty well flat. So there's obviously all the dust on it from sanding, which you guys can probably see there. So all I've got is a mix of methylated spirits and water. Give it a liberal dose of that, wipe it down just to help clean the dust off the panel, and then it should be good for primer. Now obviously not going for a ridiculously high quality build on this one, guys. We just want to tidy it up. So if I was trying to get this perfect, there's some spots like this guy down here. I'd use some high build filler and basically work on getting everything perfectly level and even, but it's just not worth it on this one. It's a nice enough bike, but it's never going to be a concourse build. So that should have the majority of the dust off of it. Once I've got it out to where we're going to paint it, we'll give it another
light soak down and clean up, but hopefully that shows up on camera that there's no shine really left on that. So just going to pressure pack this one. I'm not going to use the gun. There's only really, what, 4-5 panels to paint. So yeah, rattle can is good enough for this particular job. So that's the next step. Okay, so that's the first coat down. It's only a light one. I'll repeat that probably 3 or 4 times and then give it a couple of coats of clear once it's flashed off. That's basically just going to be the process for all the panels that we had a look at earlier. So guys, I'm going to carry on with this, and once they're all done, we will see you back in the shed. Well guys, that was a bit of a grind. We finally got there though. So that grey paint that you can see on the panels over my shoulder there just did not want to play the game. Had a few reactions. It could have just been some crap that was on the plastic from the sanding and from the cleaning. It might not have been clean enough, but it was pretty consistent. So laid down the primer, laid down 2 or 3 coats of the colour, which was fine, and then you go to the top layer of colour and it would either react or it would react with the first coat of clear. Could be the curing time. It might not have flashed off. I might have tried to do it too soon. I don't know. The short end of the story was that a lot of reactions, which meant a lot of sanding and resanding and painting, and you get the picture. But we're finally there. So all the plastics are done. So we're now at a point where we can get them back onto the frame. So that's today's goal. We'll try and get this thing looking like a bike again. So let's get into it. Okay guys, that's got all the plastics on, sort of. I did mess up somewhere, and did any of you eagle-eyed viewers notice it in the earlier part of me doing this time-lapse? Because if you did, give me a shout below. Would have been handy to notice. Rear plastics have come up really good. I'm very happy with how they look on the bike. Obviously got the luggage rack on and the tail light. Floor pan is on. Got that kick panel on and the front panel here. This is the problem. What's missing from there? The front guard. Now, I don't actually know if I can get that front guard on with all these plastics here. So I will probably have to pull it all back apart. But I'm just going to enjoy how it looks for, for a moment. One thing I have noticed though is those wheels look terrible on this. Absolutely terrible. So this rear one's obviously ruined anyway. The tyre's in pretty good condition, but the rim itself is wrecked. I think I said in episode 1 that there is a replacement for that, so that's a win. Obviously no exhaust on the bike. This one's in good condition, the tyre's in good condition, but just starting to surface rust, and it's just grubby. So that'll be something that I'm going to have to do. I've got some black paint left. I think I might just murder the wheels out, make them all black, shine them up, maybe put some leather paint on the tyres, we'll see. But yeah, guys, it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. I now get to fight with that. Wish me luck. Well, that was a right pain in the backside, but we've got the front guard on. Just enough room in there to get the two side bolts on and the front one. Obviously had to pull the front cover back off and disconnect the speedo, because for the life of me couldn't figure out how to get it off of the drum here. Looks like it just clips in here, but I didn't want to break it, so took the easier route, even if it was a bit more work. But we can actually say that it's got all the plastics on now. It's got the mirrors on now too. I don't know if the camera's still rolling for that, but just some cheap aftermarket ones, but good enough. But guys, she's almost back in one piece. Just needs the storage bucket in here, but intentionally leaving that out because I don't know if I still need to muck around with the motor yet. We haven't tried to actually run it, and I'm waiting for a battery to put in there, and then the cover can go on the floor. But the list's getting shorter, so things that are mentioned, the exhaust obviously needs to be done as well. That'll show up at some point. I've ordered a part for that. But I think next we're going to have to get onto these wheels because they look terrible. So let's get into it. Well guys, in my opinion, that looks 1,000 times better. Those blacked out wheels with the highlighted white writing on the tyres just makes the bike complete. It looks so much angrier than a Honda Today really has any right to look. It's come together really well, and as you would have seen in that last little montage, I've started working on the exhaust as well. Now, I looked at getting some aftermarket ones for it. There's not a lot for these bikes in the way of parts, at least in New Zealand. So I'm reusing the original header pipe that came off of it. You would have seen me cut the the mount that was on there completely off it. I don't think it's the genuine Honda one. It looks like it already was something changed, but for my purposes it's going to be good enough. So we've ordered a new can that's arrived, and we have to leave this workshop to go to a friend's workshop to get this thing stuck together. So let's do it. That's got that job done, guys. The definitely genuine Akrapovic muffler is now on the exhaust. You would have seen that getting welded on. And we decided to heat wrap the pipe. Not necessarily required, just like the look of it. So it goes with that sort of angry looking bike. Now, she's all getting very close to complete. There's a couple other little things that were done off camera. Mainly the Go Baby Go sticker. If any of you Gone in 60 Second fans out there will know the meaning of that one. And decided to do, if it shows up in light, a custom Honda decal for it. I kind of like the melted look. Again, just something different and custom. But guys, it's as far along as it needs to be. My battery's shown up, so we're going to throw that in that hole and see if this thing's going to fire up. Well, we've got a bit of an interesting issue with this one. The motor obviously turns over freely, you guys have heard that. And as mentioned earlier, I've left the plastic bucket out to have access to the motor if needed, and looks like I'm going to. Now, the battery's in, it's obviously charged, and we all know the procedure for these is you turn the key on, press the button, and it starts. However, that's not normal operation. Obviously the starter motor has sort of got a bit of a whine in it, doesn't seem to engage every time, that's, you know, whatever. But as soon as the key's on, the bike is trying to start. So there's only really two reasons for that. The starter motor in this is buried well under all the carburetor and everything. If it's becoming energized from a wire touching, or if it's bare or something, or more likely there's an issue in the switch block, which is really weird because the switch feels like it operates fine. It's maybe a bit sticky, but it's not crazy bad. Looks like this thing's just going to fight us at the end of the line, guys. So now the issue is definitely something electrical. As I think I mentioned in the last episode, there's only really a couple of things it can be. So the plan is to start diagnosing it. We'll have a look at the switch block, make sure the starter switch is engaging and disengaging, doing what it needs to be doing. We'll get the carburetor and the airbox out of the way so that I can get to the starter motor and make sure nothing's making contact there that shouldn't be. And I guess we'll check the starter solenoid as well. That's a known fault for these things. If it gets stuck, then it can cause issues. So guys, quite a bit to do today, and no time like the present, so let's get into this thing. Okay guys, so we fast forwarded a little bit. I didn't bother filming this because it really wasn't interesting, but I've got the carburetor and the airbox out of the bike. You can see in there that gives us access in behind here to the starter motor. So I can start checking the lead wires, just make sure everything's where it should be and nothing's crossed over. And I've also pulled the start solenoid out of here. So basically all that is a switch. As soon as you turn the key on, hit the start button, it energizes across these poles and provides power to the starter motor. Now I can see that there are some spots in the harness, I don't know if it's going to show up, that have been worn through. Worst case scenario on this is that there is a crossover in the loom. There's two wires touching that shouldn't be. I really hope that's not the case, so we're going to start simple and then get to the harder stuff as we go along. Well guys, I've pulled the front cover off this bike once again because of where we were checking this. Now you would have seen in that footage previously that I was giving this thing a bit of a tap with the screwdriver. That was to try and unstick it, because sometimes these can get stuck and they continue to make contact across the points consistently. You could hear, hopefully you could hear anyway, with the multimeter I was checking continuity and it was constant. That shouldn't be happening. This should be, there should be no connection on this until you hit the start switch. So, as I said, starting easy and working up. If this is not the fault, I mean, it could still be the fault. This thing could be wrecked. I don't know. That'll be sort of next port of call. But we are slowly working our way up to the switch. This, like I said, feels like it's moving freely. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any issue there at all. Could be wrong, so we'll pop that off and have a look. But what I wanted to do was get into here and just have a look at the wiring harness that was coming out the back of the key, well, the ignition. There is a bit of a plug there. I'm going to have to take a few things off to get to where I need to be, but I'm going to pull those off and just have a look at the harness and make sure there's no breaks or anything like that in it that's making contact that shouldn't be. And from there we'll work up to the switch. So guys, more to do, but just one of those finicky problems that does happen from time to time. So, visually inspecting all of the harness in there, it is fine. There's no breaks, there's nothing really obvious anyway. So, unfortunately, it's not just a matter of cleaning the switch. That's fine. There's no visible breaks, so I can't just repair a broken wire. Now, the harness travels down behind here. It follows the frame. Comes underneath here. I don't know if you guys are going to see, possibly not. The main harness is basically just up in there and comes back around and enters in the floor panel here where it keeps everything. Now we come back to this guy again because this is seemingly where the problem's coming from. My guess is that it's going to be the start solenoid, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So I'm going to order one anyway. They're a cheap part. We'll get another one of these in and hopefully that will sort out the problem. But it's not the end of it today. I think we might push on. I'll put the carburetor and the airbox back on the bike, and this thing does have a kickstart as well. It's not solely a push button start, so I can potentially still try and get it running. So the battery's in, battery's charged. We're not going to worry about the switch at the moment. We'll just get everything back together and see if we can't get it to go. there we go, guys. We've now got the wee scooter back together, which is kind of where we started the episode. So no ground made other than a bit of diagnosis. I do feel like it's possibly the start solenoid. It seems like the most likely culprit. Everything looks fine. The wiring harness is in good condition. There's no visible broken wires. The ignition switch is good. It's moving through its range of motion the way it should. There's really nothing that appears wrong with this bike. So I'm very nervous that it's going to have some finicky problem that I can't get on top of without disassembling the whole bike, but fingers crossed it's a start solenoid. So guys, that is as much as I can get done on this bike for now. I'm going to order the new bits and yeah, we'll come back to you when they arrive. Welcome back, guys. So the last thing you saw on the Today was it being basically where it was when we started the episode. A little frustrating, of course, but hey, these things happen. So a bit of time's passed. I've got some parts in the mail. We have a new start solenoid, so that should hopefully alleviate the issue that we've been having. Off camera, I've put the carburetor and the airbox back on the bike. You don't need to see that. You saw it in the first assembly. That's fine. Have tried to kick it over. Normally wait to do these things on film with you guys. I like, the process is important to me, but kind of on a time crunch with this one. Now, did decide to carry on and just see what was going to happen, and unfortunately it was nothing. Now, the problem was that we had no spark. So, assuming that it has a faulty coil as well, I've gone ahead and ordered one of them too. So guys, that's the next step. We're going to throw these new parts at the bike, cross our fingers, hope like hell that this thing actually goes. But yeah, let's push on. Let's find out if this thing's going to play a game. Well, here we go again, guys. You are probably sick of seeing the scooter in this state, but unfortunately this is where we're stuck. Now, bucket is still out of there. There's a big black plastic opening that stores helmets that goes in here. You can see in the center that the carburetor is back on the bike, and the airbox just down to that lower right is also refitted. Now, there is a little thing with that airbox in that it's not the one the bike came with. The reason being, I figured it needed a new one. In front of camera now is the old original airbox. You can see that there's some dodgy Tyvek tape on the bottom and there's some big open holes there. So whoever's had this bike previously has decided to try and up the airflow in this thing, and we're going to throw that aside where it deserves to be, because that doesn't help other than getting the air filter wet, because they're a paper filter in these. So this is a second-hand airbox, new air filter and everything. It's all original. I'm not molested at all. It is completely standard, and that's how I wanted it to be. In working through that, I also noticed that with the carburetor, the diaphragm in the original was cracked to buggery, so that was not going to be helping either. So we have replaced that too. Now guys, only a short bit of work today, which is the coil and the start solenoid, so I'm going to plug those guys in and hope for the best. Right guys, so that's got those bits replaced. Did it off camera, just wanted to do it quickly. I'm pretty ready to be done with this one, to be honest. So the coil, where are we? Coil is now done. That's plugged in, and just down through this inspection hole, hopefully you can see that the plug lead is just in there on the spark plug. Start solenoid is plugged in, and let's see how this goes. As you can see, the battery is flat. Well, sorry, as you can hear, the battery is flat, but more importantly, we still have the same problem. So, not start solenoid. Something definitely awry with the bike, and I'm out of time. Yeah, this is as far as I can go with this thing. I'm going to finish it. I'll put the bucket in the hole here, so we'll get all that bolted in. And we've got a nice custom seat for the bike as well, so I'll get that on there and get it looking finished, but unfortunately not operational. Now, any of you guys that have followed the channel for any amount of time know that we definitely like to finish what we start, and this is no different. I'm really genuinely frustrated that this bike isn't going to be in rideable state. The plan for this episode was to finish the thing, get out and take it for a run. We do have rain at the moment, but hey, I ride in any conditions. Unfortunately, the bike is not going to allow that. But I'm going to get it as done as possible. So I'm going to do a little time lapse of the seat and putting that bucket in there. We'll give you a look at this really nice custom seat that the bike's got. And hey, it'll be Instagram finished, which, you know, it'll look the part, but, you know, we don't bullshit on this channel, guys. I like to tell it how it is, and this one's not going to be started, unfortunately. So let's put it back together, and at least you guys will get to see it in one piece. Well guys, there we have it. This thing is as complete as I can get it with the time scale that I've got. So that seat I absolutely love. Went for something a little different and crazy this time with the Mexican blanket, but I thought, you know what, this kind of looks like a bit of a hot rod build, so why not give it a hot rod sort of fabric for the seat. Definitely something different, and hot rod is usually not something you'd use in terms of a scooter, but the Akrapovic exhaust with the titanium heat wrap, the blacked out wheels with the white riding tyres, and just that grey, it just lends itself to like old school hot rod style, and I really dig it. So bike's obviously now legal. We've got the new license plate and everything on it, so ironically it would have been good to go on the road, which was the goal, and I was super excited to see how this angry little beast of an exhaust would have sounded. Should have crackled quite nicely for the lead twist and go. You guys know that the paint came from the leftovers of the CT90 build. Love this colour, and there was enough to use. It's not perfect, it probably looks better on film than it is, but pretty happy with how it came up. The wheel paint, the black wheel paint, was also a leftover, but I think it really suits the bike, and I love this colour scheme. So the material was obviously specifically bought for this job. Not much of it, you know, it just suits it. I really like the look. Could be controversial, some of you guys might not agree, but you know, I build bikes the way that I like them. You'll notice there's pretty much no badges on the bike. Thought I would do some custom Today logos. There's normally the factory ones are around here somewhere, but I just like the clean look. So there's only actually 2 stickers on this bike. One which is a little bit of a joke and a little bit of a laugh is the Go Baby Go sticker. Gone in 60 seconds inspired. That's just on the keys fob there, and we've obviously got the drippy Honda later model Honda badge style on there. Again, very minimal, but it's just the way that the build worked out. But guys, this isn't the normal sort of thing that I do. We do like to finish these builds when we start them, but this one's unfortunately beaten me. And there we go guys, you will remember this thing from the last 3 episodes. Got it to a point where it was complete but not running. Now Steve, the fella that has taken this off of me, has got it sorted. So had a couple of wee issues. If you guys have watched the series, you would have seen me murking around under here. The CDI sits in this point here. Now there was a loose cable on that wasn't making good contact, and the fuel pump, which is buried under here, basically was jammed up from being sitting dry for too long, and that was it. So I'm glad that they got it going, but they've been very kind enough to let me take it for a spin. So that's what we're going to do guys. We're going to jump on this little beast and see how it goes. Oh, the crackle on D-cell. Love it. Oh, this thing's such a laugh. Such a laugh. Oh. Steve, if you're watching this, mate, thank you for making my day. This thing is hilarious. love the crackle on downshift. Well, it's not even downshift, just winding down. Gotta do a U-turn here. Tyres grip nicely. Come on, little 50. Oh, fantastic. It does suck that I didn't get this thing going myself, but I'm so happy that it went to somebody that did. Alright, let's see if we can get 60 out of this little thing. We've got a bit of time to wind it up. That's 50, it gets to 50 really easily. 55. Stay there, car. Oh, 58, 59. Oh, I've got to call that 60. It's within a kilometre an hour. Oh man. Well guys, that was brilliant. He's even rocking the Bad Idea Bros sticker for us. That's real cool. So guys, this will be the last time you'll probably see this bike. If we venture to the scooter safari next year, then these guys will be on doing that, so we may be seeing them there. But I'm absolutely pumped with this little thing, and I'm very stoked. With that exhaust, every part as rowdy as the bike should have been. Oh, heck yeah. That's made my day.